Hello, welcome to the Interjections podcast, subtitled The Undiscovered Decade. We, at this podcast, discuss movies from 30 years ago. We look for hidden gems and try to unearth them so that we can bring them back to light or look into someone's filmography and see something that's sort of overshadowed by their other work. And sometimes rivers, they're wild. As you can see behind Cory, we have a picture of some of the people in it. But since 1994 started for us, we use this random picker wheel that helps choose who's going to actually go and discuss the... So there's a 50% chance that Jeff will go. He's most likely to go. And Jimmy and Cory each have one chance left to discuss the synopsis of the film. So let's see who gets it. What a surprise.
Jeff!
Look at us.
Hey, look at that.
Well
Look
done,
at us.
sir.
Okay.
Look at us.
You're a winner today, buddy. You get to talk
Am I?
about
You're a winner.
the movie.
Is
Now
this
it's an
what-
equal
Or at least
chance for the
introduce it to
last
us.
3 films.
Is this what winning feels like? All right, fine. So The River Wild follows the story of Gail and Tom. Gail played by Meryl Streep, Tom played by David Strathairn, and their son
Roarke.
played by
job.
Joseph
Not me.
Mazzello. You know, they're a very outdoorsy family, at least in the beginning. You know, Meryl Streep and Roarke are very outdoorsy folks, and she wants to go on this trip up to Montana and, you know, ride the river. And her workaholic architect husband, Tom, is like, no, I gotta work. And he's, you know, he's supposed to be like a stick in the mud, like doesn't want to do anything.
How did they end up
And-
together, honestly?
Well, you find out throughout the film. So Gail and Roarke go, they're doing the rafting adventure, and then they come across this Kevin Bacon character by the name of Wade, who's supposed to be like this manly man, real rugged outdoorsy fella who you think is just like, okay, so she left her husband at home and gonna fall for this Kevin Bacon fella. But things are not what they seem.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Bum, bum, bum.
Because at some point, right at the beginning of the trip, Tom shows up and, you know, then decides to go on the adventure with them. And what happens next?
What happens next? That's the... Well, it gets, you know, the river
Hang
gets
on, I gotta refresh. The river gets
Yeah.
wild. You find out that Wade and his sidekick Terry, played by John C. Reilly,
in an early role.
in an early role. I forget if they were on the lam for something. It wasn't like a prison escape, but they were like, you know,
They robbed the state fair.
They robbed the state, right? They robbed the cattle auction, and they're on
Yeah, that's
the
what it was.
lam, and they need to get down the river. And
Wow.
Meryl Streep is the only one who knows how to get through
What was the name of the rapids right at the end of the river?
The
There was
Gauntlet?
The Gauntlet. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Of
because they
course,
keep referring to the
she's
Gauntlet.
the one that knows how to do it because they used to do it back in the 70s when she was young.
It was
Yeah,
prohibited.
Back when everything was
Easier.
legal. You can
Yeah.
you can smoke in nurseries, and
Yeah.
you know, there was a
Yeah.
theme park made out of concrete in New Jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna add that like the clever thing about like the cattle robbery is because like they're basically next to Canada. The assumption by the like police and the other authorities is like they're gonna hop the border. So they decided like as their getaway to go down river and like meet up where they had left a parked car. But like since the Gauntlet is part of the river, nobody would assume that anybody would be stupid enough
Dumb
to
enough,
use
yeah.
that as an
Enough to
escape
do
route.
it.
But they're
Yeah.
willing to risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah, it ends up being pretty much just a chase movie, but very slow, but sometimes fast. And there's some incidents that happen along the way. There's a really early role from Benjamin Bratt that's kind of interesting. He
Yeah,
plays like a
before this,
river
he did,
ranger.
he was in Demolition Man.
Okay, yeah,
He was
I
one of the
couldn't.
police officers.
I forgot to look
Oh
him
yeah.
up. You know, I like Benjamin Bratt. He was fun in this movie. It gives there's incidents like what was that movie that we did with Bill Murray and Gina Davis where they're trying to get to the airport from the bank robbery? It's kind of like
Quick change.
Yeah, Quick Change. That was like our third movie or whatever. It's kind of like that. There's so many obstacles along the river that you have these incidents that Kevin Bacon and John C. Reilly have to overcome.
I really appreciated that this was more character driven than a normal like thriller this type would be.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of the movie, you don't even know Wade's true intentions until about an hour in.
Right. I know them now because we know this is sort of like there's going to be someone that's a villain.
Yeah, but the first hour is very character driven. They do a lot to build up the relationship between Gail and Tom and the friction between the two of them. And it's a good gender role reversal too, because Tom's the castrated male. Even the dog doesn't respect him by getting off the bed when
Right.
he
That's one of the pinnacle points of the movie. Sorry, I fell off the boat before. That's
You're
one
right.
of the
You look
pinnacle
wet.
points of the movie was when the dog finally listens to his command.
That's a good boy.
They got to
good
bond
boy.
because they had to survive. And the dog's
Right.
like, yeah, no, you're taking the lead. You know how to get us out of this mess.
Yeah.
Trauma bonding is a very helpful experience. So this is just two not good guys making a bad situation.
Well, John C. Reilly was the reluctant one.
Yeah, he actually
You
has some
kinda-
character growth too, where
Yeah.
he doesn't want to be worse than just robbing someone. He doesn't like that the guy died. He doesn't want to shoot the family, you know?
Yeah, he's like, he knows he's the bad guy, but like,
To a
he
point.
doesn't want to be. Yeah,
Kevin Bacon
he tries to be good.
Kevin
He's getting into that Wreck-It Ralph role very early.
He's
Yeah.
he's trying to not be typecast as the Deliverance looking fella.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, Kevin Bacon has like no qualms within one scene.
Yeah.
The heel turn scene, he punches David Strathairn, he punches his glasses off, he threatens a kid, and he almost kills a dog.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, dude, man is unhinged, has no
Yeah.
qualms with anything. But I do have to say, I really want to know where Tom's glasses came from because those things are fucking indestructible.
That's true.
He got punched in the face, kicked in the face, shot at. He fell
Almost
on the rocks.
drowned.
He almost drowned. These things
Couple
are
times.
still just
Well,
pristine.
the thing about Tom is like we were introduced to him as like the nerdy guy, husband, architect.
He'd rather
type
be
dude.
drawing. Yeah.
But like and his wife Gail's like athletic. She used to like run these rivers back when she was younger.
She used to run these streets.
Yeah, but like as the movie goes along, you realize that like Tom's also fairly athletic too because he's basically like scaling the side of mountains next to the river,
yeah.
trying to
Where did he
avoid
learn
getting
that?
shot at. So like,
And that's
yeah, so
that's how you
he
realize.
they probably like started dating when they were younger, doing something like adventurous. So
that's
like
what I had to
Yeah.
say.
this could be like a subtle way of showing like he's like getting back in touch with like his old self as well.
The one she
Well,
fell in
not
love
even,
with.
No
not even
survive,
subtle.
yeah.
That's the movie.
Yeah, no.
He literally
They're talking about
saves
how
their
they used to,
lives
like, smoke
Well,
and go do these
through
trips.
some sort of like
Yeah, they were
Home Alone
flower
booby trap.
powered kids.
And
To-
that kind of
to-
goes into Cory's like character spiel.
To Jimmy's point, though, with him scaling the cliffside, it's not like they spell out, "Oh, you can finally try to do freebasing again." It's something you haven't done in 20 years. That's a line that would have been in a lesser movie,
Yes.
you know. And instead, he just does it, and you're like, "Oh, he
Yeah.
must have known this before, and he just
Yeah.
doesn't do it anymore because he's absorbed by his work."
Yeah.
And so that's a nice
He
touch.
just became a putz.
Yeah, so it's not needed to be spelled out. That's a hallmark of a good script.
Show don't tell.
I also like you were making a point of not really introducing that Kevin Bacon's going to be evil right away. I do like that they set it up to be that, oh, Tom showed up, but she might have hit it off with this guy. If their marriage is in trouble, maybe she has a new
Yes.
love interest, even though her son's right there. Like, they could hit it off, and this is more
There's
about
a-
their marriage falling apart than an actual thriller, you know?
The only part where it starts to get really creepy and it's actually where she turns is when he's watching her skinny dip.
And then
That's where you're supposed to
It's
start
like, okay, she
getting
doesn't reciprocate
uncertain.
this at all.
you're
Right.
stereotypical leaning up against a tree staring with the lightning flashing, and it's like, oh,
Right.
okay, he's evil now.
Yeah, no, this
Well,
is not the right.
He's like,
Kevin
hey,
Bacon's-
when he
Oh yeah,
when he-
I was gonna say Kevin Bacon's character does successfully steal the heart of the son.
Yep.
right.
So he had that hat.
Momentarily until
Yeah,
he was mad.
That was
It's
that
like-
was one more. Well, no, that was one more like twist of the knife when he's just like, "What's the matter, Tom? Your son likes me more than you."
Yeah,
But
Joseph Mazzello had a lot more to do in the beginning because you have to set up that he's like charming the son, the boy, and everything. Kevin Bacon is. By the time it's just more of a thriller, it's sort of a cat and mouse game between Meryl Streep and Kevin Bacon. But Joseph Mazzello really sells it. Like, he could have been whiny, he could have been obnoxious, but he's just kind of like a nice son, and he really does appreciate that Meryl Streep's his mother knew the rapids as well as she does. So, and he eventually appreciates his father setting that architectural trap at the end. So it does set up things well, and the performances, I think everyone clicked in their roles.
Oh yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, Joseph Mazzello's character also like demonstrated how like clever he is. Because they had just like one of those disposable cameras, but like waterproof, because it had the little plastic case. Like he tried to take pictures of the bad guys doing bad things and like throw it downriver, expecting like the Rangers to find it. So very clever. Something that came in handy, that like he had a deaf or mute grandfather that knew sign, because they showed that earlier.
Yeah, Meryl Streep's father is deaf.
So they had it like Meryl Streep and Joseph Mazzello had like a secret, like, or was it the father and like one of the parents and the kid had a secret conversation.
Yeah, Meryl Streep and Joseph Mazzello do a thing.
Yeah,
and Kevin Bacon's like, "What are they doing? What are you doing right now?"
Yeah,
check off sign language.
Yeah, I was like, "What are you doing? Knock it off."
I gotta give
less talky, more rowy.
It's hard to like. I would have to think the production of this was a nightmare, because filming on those rapids and trying to get Robert Elswith's cinematography is dazzling, but it's got to be hard to get those. It's got to be hard to capture those action scenes, because you got to be in the boat during some of that, and this is before cameras.
You know what? I do remember when we watched that. I was breaking down how they probably
go ahead.
did that.
Say what you told me while we were watching, because I have a good idea that you were right about what they were probably doing.
Yeah, no, I figured for like the more dramatic and more actiony scenes, they probably notice like they were pretty like close up. So like
I feel like they're mounted on the actors, maybe.
Yeah, they were probably mounted on something, so they were going up and down, back and forth to make it look like they were really wavy. But if you notice, like really deep in the background, like just like out of focus, you notice like the waters are like streaming down, and then there's like just darkness, just a bit of darkness, so you couldn't see like if they're just like pumping like water hose behind them.
Yeah, they're probably in a safe spot.
Yeah,
they probably made the raft go, but they're at the river site. That was our guess. So then they're not actually at the rapids. Then when we're in the rapids, the second unit people, there could be stunt people in there, especially for the most dangerous points. So I think the editing and the cinematography were working hand in hand to make it seamless. I think that's the key to it. I was impressed with the sound design, because I looked at several moments when you should not be able to hear what Kevin Bacon's saying, and his words the ADR is in sync perfectly. I didn't see anything off. So I'm really impressed with the technological aspect of this movie.
Also right, and then the sheer logistics, getting those overhead shots, you have to be ready when the thing's coming by, like all of the production stuff necessary. Right, you had to like all of those flyby shots were a fucking helicopter.
Again, no dialogue.
Right, but it was, I don't know, the cinematography was great, but also like the location shooting lends a lot to that, because you have these majestic landscapes, and it's just like, oh, this is part of America.
It is beautiful.
It is beautiful. You don't have to do much. You just got to like make sure it's not raining on your stuff. No, I will agree with that. Speaking of stunts, apparently Meryl Streep did most of her own.
Okay, I was gonna ask you. You said you were looking up trivia right before we got on.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I also didn't realize. I did not realize that Grace Gummer is Meryl Streep's daughter.
Didn't we talk about that a couple episodes ago?
We may have, and also she married David Strathairn's son.
Really?
In real life, 25 years later.
Oh, really?
Tay Strathairn, yeah.
I wonder if they stayed friends, and that's how Grace and Tay met.
I believe, well, this whole movie is about trauma bonding and rekindling things, so I'm sure they talked for a bit after this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sam Neill apparently turned down the role of Tom Hartman. I'm like, yeah, because he's like, I don't want to do Jurassic Park again. Yeah. Mazzello's doing it. Yeah. It's literally just Jurassic Park 3 at this point. I don't know.
Except Kevin Bacon is the T-Rex.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I think he's just a really disgruntled Dilophosaurus, and they're stuck in a boat.
You know what? He's got it's like a Velociraptor in this.
Could have been Ray Liotta, though.
This is only a year after Jurassic Park, and this is they cut the big water scene because it was too logistically impossible to get done, especially with that heavy T-Rex machinery. So they really cut it because they couldn't get that in the water. But I'm sure Sam Neill was grateful they didn't get in a raft, and he was like, "Hell no, I'm not doing it for a whole film."
They did it in 3.
Right, they did that scene with the Spinosaurus because they didn't do it in 1.
Makes sense.
Joseph Mazzello just spent most of his early career in the water.
Yeah.
Did we say it's his birthday?
Oh yeah. We're recording on September 21st, and that is Joseph Mazzello's, I think he's 45 today already.
The
Oh,
day
wow.
of the invasion
Yeah.
and all.
I meant to look up his actual age, but he's in his 40s already. I mean, this was again 30 years ago. So
What-
happy birthday, Joseph Mazzello. I
what
know
was
you're
he?
watching.
I
Happy
feel like he's
this
probably
birthday.
closer to 40 or 41 because he should be like a little bit older than.
Don't think it's his 40th.
Was
He's
this
40.
one of
He's
the
41.
last
You're
roles-
right. He's
All right, there
41
you go,
today.
yeah.
Is this one of the last roles he did before he kind of went on hiatus as a child actor? And came
Well,
back
he
with-
has The Cure next year with Brad Renfro, and then
I
he
forgot.
does Star Kid a couple of years later,
That
and
was
then
him.
he sort of goes on his hiatus because he went to college, I know, and then he popped up with Ariana Richards for Lost World right before that too. She never really does anything else, and she's in Tremors 3, which I don't know if we ever mentioned back in the first episode, but I did point this out to Jimmy. Kevin Bacon has been in two
Tremors.
movies for us on this podcast, and they're both with the two Jurassic Park kids.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
isn't that funny? So we only do Kevin Bacon Jurassic Park kid movies.
This is 6 degrees for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, he goes on a hiatus and then ends up popping up again for Social Network and Bohemian Rhapsody is part of an ensemble where he's like a key cog. It's kind of a neat career. He's not like Jake Gyllenhaal, like blowing up once he's an adult, or Kirsten Dunst, but he's been
Yeah.
around. He's still in things. He was just in Impeachment, American Crime Story. So
Oh.
he does stuff.
He didn't burn out. He's just living life. But
But this is
all
like a
that
rare
said,
I can't think of another movie where Meryl Streep played an action hero.
Right?
And there's very few of these. Like nowadays, female action heroes are kind of dime a dozen. That's kind of like the norm now.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, you really only had Sarah Connor, Ellen Ripley, and like something like this was kind of an outlier.
I know I put it in the notes. She was nominated for a Blockbuster Award, whatever that used to be, for
was
Best
like a
Action
populist-
Star.
the
Yeah,
golden
it's a popular
videotape.
thing, essentially. And she lost to Sandra Bullock for Speed, which makes sense. Sandra Bullock
Okay,
was
okay.
the action star of the 90s. But yeah, Meryl Streep could have had an interesting career with that. She could have done a couple thrillers like this.
And this
She's
was
pretty
before
good.
Everybody forgets, like, this is around the time, like, she was respected, but not as respected as she is now. She wasn't the
Right.
gold standard of actresses back then.
Right. She'd won some Oscars, but a lot of the time when you win an Oscar or two, you're done. So she could have been trying to pivot at that time and ended up getting more roles that fit her in
Yeah,
the
like,
late
No
90s, early
Strikes got
2000s.
2 Oscars, and she's really not having that great of a career.
Exactly, yeah. Perfect example. But yeah, adaptation is really what revitalized her Oscar caliber career.
And I feel like
So-
she's been nominated ever since, like, every year.
Right.
So
Yeah, so the 90s were a weird period for Meryl Streep. Death Becomes Her was actually a low point in her career, according to a lot of
Weird.
people.
yeah.
And now it's got a musical on Broadway. Everyone loves it. Cult classic. So this could be the next Meryl Streep musical. We got to do it, Jeff.
It's
I mean,
weird.
they
I
already
was-
did Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
I was thinking Curtis Hanson as kind of a journeyman director. Like, he doesn't really have a distinctive style. Hits his high point in a couple of years when he does LA Confidential, which
Yeah.
is probably a masterpiece. But back then he was kind of just doing like boilerplate movies, nothing really indistinguishable.
Yeah, he's definitely just like a thriller guy.
He did
I
like a
don't-
Hitchcockian movie with Steve Guttenberg called the Bedroom Window.
Mhm.
And then years later, he was doing kind of like in the 2000s, he was doing kind of charitably the forgettable fare, like In Her Shoes, and
Or Lucky You.
When I Saw Lucky You, yeah.
Yeah, that's like basically his last film because he unfortunately developed a form of aphasia that sort of blocked his ability to direct anymore. So he passed away a few years ago. I don't know exactly when, but
He also did 8 Mile.
yeah, he did 8 Mile. So I will say his best films are probably LA Confidential, 8 Mile, and I'd say this is
Oh.
definitely the beginning of his good period from like 94 to 04.
Absolutely.
So I do like his style, whatever it actually is. I think he's just one of the most competent directors because if anyone can piece something together like this, you got to give him some of the credit.
Yeah, like now
No.
everything on the soundstage, you got to really deal with the environmental issues when you're out there on the waters. So,
Yeah, and they avoid that these days.
yes,
They just do it in
the volume.
the volume. Yeah.
Or they just AI the background.
How's that?
It would look
Picture
like
behind you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Screensaver
I'm,
right
I'm in a beautiful stream in upstate Montana.
That's why
It
it
looks
keeps
like
skipping.
Alaska.
He's got noise
The-
damp.
They're
Yeah.
stuck though. It's a weird weather thing.
Mm-hmm.
Want to give ratings?
The only thing I can think of other than that is how did you feel about John C. Reilly in his early performance? Like it's
He
kind
was
of cool to
great.
see him so early. The first thing I remember him in was The Perfect Storm.
Yeah, me
So-
too. I didn't remember him in this.
Yeah, he
He
did a bunch of
was-
things before this, like Boogie Nights. I didn't see until after Perfect Storm because I was a teenager.
Okay, yeah, I think
But-
that's pretty nice first.
But he is actually pretty good, and he has a bigger part than I expected when I saw that he was in the cast. But yeah, I think overall the movie's good. I guess if anyone wants to give a grade,
I would probably give it a B. It's not again, it's nothing spectacular, but it's a solid like taut thriller from that time period, and it's got actually gives kind of juicy roles to the actors because it is very, like I said, it's very character driven for the first half. For the most part, there's a lot of backstory going on.
and everyone's against type.
Well, Kevin Bacon definitely becomes like a villain after this. He kind of gets typecast a little bit after this.
Yeah, because you always
He has a
think of
problem.
him in real life, he's a nice guy. So I think he got the Tom Hanks treatment, but then stuck with the villain.
Yeah,
He does it well.
he has no problem with it. He's always good as a villain.
Yeah.
Always.
It was
I would
great.
probably give it a B as well because I really enjoyed it. This is it's up our alley, a great Saturday afternoon TNT film.
Absolutely. May have been when I saw it.
It's our bread and butter.
I give it an A. I liked it. It made me want to go outside. So when movies inspire me to actually go do something with my life, I'm like, okay, this is a good rating.
You want to go whitewater?
Other-
Is that why you're whitewater rafting right now?
He
Yes,
just wants
exactly. I saw the movie and then I hopped in
wants
the
to rob
car.
an
I'm
old
like,
casino.
I'm going to Canada. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
It's a bit
I'm gonna-
quiet.
I'm
I
gonna-
put the noise canceling on, so you can't hear all the birds. It's lovely out. There's water rustling, and
Yes,
Mhm.
the-
I
water's
soundproof the canoe.
The sun seems to be affixed in the background. That's weird.
It's got
Yeah.
listen. It's those northern. Something
Lights.
about being up north. It's
Yeah.
it's.
It's a
Yeah.
Aurora
In
Borealis.
this time of year,
It's
in
those
this
northern
exact
lights.
location.
Yeah.
Localized entirely within your Zoom box.
I'm gonna give this movie an A too. Yeah. I like it. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a.
It's a fun movie.
The grand
because-
adventure.
Yeah, largely because like the dog had a fairly significant role.
I was so scared they were
This
going to
is-
shoot that dog.
Oh yeah,
Listen, here's.
I'm
here's
glad the dog survived.
There's a portion of the movie where Maggie is missing, and that's where Homeward Bound happens.
Ah, yes.
Whoa.
It's a movie within the movie.
It is funny. As a kid,
There's a-
I wrote a dumb script about my dog Maggie doing a Homeward Bound movie, and I didn't know that this movie existed
That's
for a
what
long time.
I was asking you earlier when we cut out or glitched out or something. I'm like, were you a fan of this movie when you were a kid, Tristan?
I never saw it until now.
Because it's just like, first of all, these people remind me of your parents, and it's like an only child like on an adventure. I don't know. Listen, I close my eyes, I see some,
and
and
Dick Clarence,
there
I
was a
looked at
dog.
her.
There was a dog named Maggie, and I was just
Right.
like, this is Tristan's movie.
That's fine.
Like, I don't know.
I did, as a
Maybe fair.
child, once wander off with a guy that was like kind of nice to me. and
I
didn't wander too
buddy.
far. We just went into a hedge maze,
You
and
just
it
did
was
it
kind of
from-
It's
Are
fine.
we going into The Shining now? Is that what's happening?
Well, it was Virginia, and I got a little lost. We were like doing a hedge maze, and then I finished it early and then wandered into a wedding, and everyone was trying to find me, and I got back and I was fine. Nothing weird happened. But there was a nice guy that I think just wanted to get me
Oh, yeah.
back to my family. So we
Yeah.
were near a river.
Not to a hot tub or something where you had to tug on something.
Nothing weird.
Oh,
This is
boy.
true. I'm not making it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not a
Nothing-
bit.
Yeah.
I was like 11, I think.
I got.
What kind of party was it? A freak off?
Oh my god. I mean, I got lost in the woods at scout camp once because there was some like scavenger hunt. So I literally got lost looking for the Holy Grail because it was the whole thing was they had to find like a chalice,
Mhm.
and I just kept wandering off into the wrong campsite, and I ended up like a mile away from where the actual
Did
like
you get back on your
organized
own?
camp was. Not really.
Okay.
But
I was going to be
eventually.
like, well, you mastered scouts then if you were a child and got back to camp even when getting lost on your own.
It was a rough time.
We can pretend you did.
Yeah, let's do.
This
Yeah.
these
For all
clearly
intents and
define both
purposes.
of us.
Yes. So anyway, this movie brought some things out. It sounds like so deserving of a high grade in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a banner month for movies in '94. There's
Oh
a lot
yeah,
of
there's a lot I had to whittle down actually.
there's a lot of top choices you could have gone through.
Yeah, I know. Well, the bottom choice. Actually, we have 6 this month
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we're safe to go with 6 if
Yeah,
there's
I
a
was gonna
heavy
say,
month. Yeah,
because it's gonna be Oscar season. There's gonna be a lot of stuff to talk about.
yeah. The thin months we could even go down to 4 if we ever want to. Whatever.
The great Albert Brooks released a movie this month, Scout.
Mhm.
It's it's a very middle brow kind of dramedy. It starts off like a comedy and it's funny, but then the movie starts to take itself seriously and it gets maudlin. Albert Brooks plays a scout for New York Yankees. He goes down to Mexico. He's demoted because he finds a prospect that gets nervous before a game and runs away home, which is actually played by Michael Rappaport.
Oh.
He gets demoted and he has to go scouting down in Mexico and he finds this young prospect played by Brendan Fraser.
He's blowing up through 94.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the movie didn't do very well, and I've seen Albert Brooks go on record as saying it's because it was during a strike, baseball strike. But I think it had more to do with the quality of the movie, if I'm to be totally honest.
It is interesting timing. This right now is when the strike happened and it totally ruined the Expos season. The Expos had their best season ever and couldn't go to the playoffs. And they probably would have won the World Series based on their record. But then because that didn't happen, a lot of good players got traded away. And 7 years later, they got sent to Washington. And now the Washington Nationals exist. So the strike kind of totally ruined an entire franchise. He isn't wrong about that. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people were like, I don't want to watch a movie about baseball right now because there's a lot of bad blood in the water about it.
Yeah. I mean, it just happens to turn out that's not one of his best movies anyway.
I watched the trailer. It's not good.
No, he didn't direct it either. It was actually Michael Ritchie who's done some great sports comedies in his time, like Bad News Bears, Downhill Racer, which you really like.
Oh yeah.
So it's it's fine.
Yeah.
But Blue Sky came out this month, which is Tommy Lee Jones and Jessica Lange, who I saw won over Meryl Streep in one of the ceremonies that you
I think it was Golden Globes for drama actress because both Meryl Streep and Kevin Bacon are nominated for Golden Globes for River Wild, by the way. That's something we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's fine.
The movie itself is it's very soapy and operatic, weirdly enough. Didn't really work for me. And I think Jessica Lange's playing it a little over the top for my taste. I don't think I would have gave it to her.
That hits these days. I think she wins the Oscar too.
I mean, though, there's no doubt she's gotten better with age. She's when you watch her origins in like the 70s King Kong to now, she's had such an arc. The movie's basically it's set in the 50s and Tommy Lee Jones plays this military leader who's sent down to the Alabama for this weapons testing facility. And his wife's kind of loose and very free. And it's about their relationship and how it comes to a head down there. And also about some government conspiracy regarding some of the weapons. It kind of genre hops a little bit too much from my taste. But
yeah,
Tommy Lee Jones is always a stalwart.
I will say, because that reminded me, I wanted to bring it up about their 2 awards. I can always cut this, but Kevin Bacon, as much as Meryl Streep has been nominated for like everything she's done, Kevin Bacon has no Oscar nominations.
It's ridiculous.
This is his only Golden Globe nomination for an actual theatrical film. He had 2 nominations for TV movies and won one of those. So he's at least won a Golden Globe, but guy just can't catch a break.
It's ridiculous. He's one of the most underrated actors of his generation.
For sure. But Meryl Streep, also nominated for this, lost to Jessica Lange for Blue Sky, which, I don't know. How do you feel?
I just neither one of them I think give great performances.
I think there were better choices. I forgot to write the other ones they were nominated against, but
yeah,
I think there's better choices.
Without doubt. Number 4 movie of the month. Actually, Jean-Claude Van Damme's still highest grossing solo movie, which is Time Cop, based on a graphic novel. This is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's fun. It's directed by Pierre Hyams, who not only is he a good director, but he always moonlights as his own cinematographer, so he has a good eye. He knows how to utilize. He's done 3 movies with Van Damme, and they're all his best movies. I'm going to talk about the next one, I think in a year, which is Sudden Death. But he knows how to incorporate some of his signature moves into the narrative without it feeling shoehorned in. Like Van Damme does one of his splits on the counter, but it's organic to the scene. It's just a fun movie.
Yeah, it's next year, Sudden Death.
I think December next year, if I'm not mistaken.
He's done a lot of decent movies, like genre films. Like I like 2010.
2010.
Which is the sequel to 2001.
Running Scared, we really like.
Oh, Running Scared is good, yeah. Capricorn 1. Outland.
Outland's really good.
Outland was my parents' first date.
Star Chamber. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the guy's done really good movies.
Yeah, imagine Meryl Streep and David Strathairn going to Outland.
That would have been cool.
Instead of An Adventure.
Or no, that's how they met 10 years before this.
Right, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So number 3 movie is a movie that's going on to be, I think it was number 1 on IMDb top 100 for the longest time. It might still be Shawshank Redemption, which did not do well when it first came out.
Oh, yeah, no.
I think it had something to do with the title, but it's going on to become beloved.
Yeah, no, it's a cult classic.
Yeah, it really is.
Oddly enough, it was like the cult classic hit like a demographic for like middle-aged men back at that time. But like I really liked it as a kid, so like
So did
So
I.
you were
Yeah.
born a middle-aged man, Jimmy.
That's
Yeah.
true. It's definitely a dad movie.
Yeah, no. It's a dad movie. Yeah, that's
Yeah, like Field of Dreams or it's another good one.
because this I'd read about that like in the same article that I read about how
Priscilla.
Priscilla is a cult classic.
I think when I
So is
first
other-
saw it, I don't know what the marketing was for this, but I think when I first saw it, I didn't realize until later that it was adapted from a Stephen King novel.
Really?
I think they wanted to distance themselves because it is a drama.
It's not his
It,
typical
it
thing.
wasn't like bloody horror or
No.
like
Yeah,
Yeah.
like even in he does another prison drama, but Green Mile has some supernatural stuff to it, so it feels more Stephen King than this.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, I think I don't know if they got nominated for this, either Tim Robbins or Morgan Freeman, but they're great in the movie. And Bob Gunton plays the warden, who's just he's so detestable in the role. He's so good.
He's so good.
The only thing that keeps it from being a great movie to me is there's a couple contrivances, whereas not to give anything away, but we find the actual culprit of the person who actually did the crime just conveniently. And I was like, that maybe could have been left ambiguous, but I understand why they needed it to make you hate the warden more.
Yeah, but like the real culprit never came to justice, so like
Yeah, but there's a guy that confesses to it, and I was like, that's just weird happenstance that that guy happens to be at the same prison bragging about it.
Well, it's because it's in the area.
It's years
well,
later.
yeah, because like he was in the same prison as the kid that he was educating, that had a chance to have a future after he got
Bill
out.
Bellows.
Yeah, but like because he was willing to, because the kid was willing to testify as a witness, saying like, yeah, no, this other guy admitted to it. Like they shot him. So like the real villain never like got like charged for the real crime. He was just in prison for something else. So like he could get out whenever. So like that, I think that's how it leans into like the tragedy of it, how much deeper it is, because like the one chance he gets a chance to get out because somebody's willing to testify about like that, and then like now it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Nevertheless, the movie is beautifully uplifting, strangely enough, even though it is set in a prison, especially with the ending. And the ending, you could almost conjecture whether it's a fantasy or not.
True. I've read theories about that, but I like to feel like it's real.
Number 2, though, is Robert Redford's directorial foray into game shows with Quiz Show.
Oh yeah, I've always wanted to see.
Really good. Really engrossing. I didn't know anything about this scandal. So this gives you like a good viewpoint into back when game shows were rigged and the contestants knew the answers. Well, it turns out everybody wasn't so brilliant back then. Some just ringers. The movie does a really good job of taking you into that corruption back then, where at one point the Ray Fiennes character just wants to live up to his dad's potential so badly because he is an intellectual and part of the elite. Robert Redford does a really good job. He has kind of an anonymous directorial style, but I think it's good for that. But he's good with actors, and that's all that matters for something like this. But my number 1 movie that we didn't get to talk about was might be my favorite Tim Burton movie, Ed Wood, based on the notoriously defamed director Ed Wood, who did a lot of bad movies. The most famous of which was Plan 9 from Outer Space, and it's a biopic with Johnny Depp in the lead role. But I think it's my favorite of theirs. They did Edward Scissorhands before this.
I think this might be my favorite film of Tim Burton's as well.
Martin Landau won the Oscar for this for playing Bela Lugosi. And this established Scott Alexander and Larry Kozlowski as the biopic guys. Because after this, they would do like The People vs. O.J. Simpson. They would do Big Eyes. They did The People vs. Larry Flint. So they did a lot of movies within this subphylum. But I love this movie. Weirdly enough, even though he's making notoriously horrible movies, you get this like sense of joy from him about the filmmaking process, even though he's inept. And that's what I like so much about it. And also the black and white cinematography is gorgeous.
It's still, we've all worked with people like that where it's just like, sure, it's about the process. The process is the fun part.
It's not
no one's ever going to see this movie, but it's fun to watch it all unfold.
I remember we watched Glenn or Glenda back when we were in high school, and we haven't seen Ed Wood yet, but then watching it gave me a new appreciation for this type of filmmaker, like the joy of film, despite not really having any talent.
Yeah.
And also just the joy of visualization and technique and wanting to tell stories. And I think that's what Ed Wood is about, and I think that's why it's Tim Burton's best film. It totally exemplifies his urge to tell us stories, whether they're his stories or someone else's, and just a nice film.
It's a compulsion.
And it's interesting that
And it's good.
they also point out like his other quirks, but like they're just a side effect of his life, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, after that takes us to Poster Boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Poster boy. Poster boy.
You ready, Jeff?
Poster boy. Oh wait, no, I'm not allowed to do
Hey.
Jack Black anymore, am I?
No, he's fine.
Ah,
All right. Oh,
We
no.
don't-
Do I know this? I don't know this. Oh wait. Oh wait. Oh wait.
You know
All
this?
right. I think I might know this, but I'm gonna play along. Okay, so
Oh.
we've got it's a bright blue sky, and there's a family of 4 with a little dog standing in front of a white picket fence, and behind them is a 2-floor house with a straitjacket wrapped around it. Obviously, this is about the craziness of family.
Uh-huh.
There's some
Oh, boy.
nonsense going on.
Do you know what this is?
I think I know exactly what this is.
That's fine.
Is that
Uh,
Charles Grodin?
It
as
sure
the-
is.
Charles Grodin, Mary Steenburgen, and
Wow.
I want to say one of the Culkins,
Which one?
Kieran,
Good job.
Wow.
and I don't know the
That's
younger
okay.
one. Is this It Runs in the Family?
Yes, it is.
What's
Oh.
the
Well, there's
other
also
name?
the title.
I would have named it.
or My Summer Story,
Oh my
because
God.
it's the sequel to A Christmas Story.
Jeff, have you seen this before?
I have seen this movie.
What do you
That's why I
think?
knew when we set this
We're-
up in December, I knew he probably had seen it.
we're
He's a huge
finally
fan of
getting-
A Christmas Story.
We're
Literally
finally
never seen
getting
this until I had to watch it for the podcast.
Oh, I would have
Huh.
named this Madhouse.
we're
but
we're
they,
finally getting into that point where I'm gonna actually start recognizing stuff. But this one you should have known. If it has anything to do with A Christmas Story, I would know. Also, if I didn't know any of that, Gene Shepard's name in the credit would have Gene Shepard and Bob Clark would have.
Anyway, so this is what I would have done. I would have asked you if you recognize any of the people in it, if you somehow didn't know this movie. I wasn't sure if you had ever seen it. I knew you were aware of it. So I was hoping having Charles Grodin's face would at least give you, okay, I know who that is, but I would have had you guess the other Culkin, so you get some bonus points for that. Not just guessing Macaulay, because he really looks like Macaulay in this picture.
Yeah,
But-
but Macaulay was too famous to do this movie.
Right.
at that point.
Right.
Wasn't this straight to video?
I don't know.
It
It's
had
not-
it had a limited theatrical, but then went to video.
It's not even in the box office. Like River Wild came in first, but nothing else that we could have really chosen for Poster Boy. Like I looked at a couple and they're not really around. There is a tagline, but it's not really anything. So I'm gonna ask you before I show you what
Wait,
the actual
hang
one
on,
is.
yeah.
Like
So-
what would you give as a
Based on if I didn't know what this movie was, I'd say
Yes.
like
exactly?
Running a House is
Running with scissors.
running with no, it's gonna be something with a straight
Not
jacket.
taken yet.
Madhouse.
The kids are out of school, the dog's running around, and everything's. We might as well run an asylum.
Right. Madhouse.
Madhouse.
Jimmy tag teamed you on the idea.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
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 So
Or
this is what it
Summer
actually is
Madness.
because they know they're trying to sell off. Yes, Summer Madness instead of Summer Sadness.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Oh, there you go.
In A
Ah, that's so
Christmas
good.
Story,
That's better.
Ralphie raised the roof. This summer, the whole family is bringing down the house.
Oh my
It
god.
doesn't rhyme. It's just kind of a lot of words. we
It's also very, very much leaning on the fact that, hey, remember A Christmas Story? Remember
and yet they
this
took the
one?
title away and didn't call it My Summer Story.
Yeah.
I don't understand. What would you keep the name? I mean, if it's supposed to be this, and you know it's the sequel to A Christmas Story,
I would have
My
kept
Summer
it-
Story,
Yeah. A summer
you would have
story.
had like
Yeah, Summer Story would have been
you would have
good.
incorporated like Summer Madness or the tagline you used for
Yeah.
Madhouse. You know, it's you guys did better than those executive probably did back in the day.
Maybe that's
Oh
why.
yeah.
I would have
People
made that
watch it.
movie open in at least 12 theaters.
Yeah.
They would have made some money back.
It's kind of
But I
sad.
do-
It's
I do remember seeing this because you know my whole history with A Christmas Story, and then at one point my dad was like, "Hey, did you know there was a summer one?" I was like, "What?"
Oh yeah.
it must be good.
It's
Yeah,
not.
and then I watched it. I'm like, "This is terrible."
Yeah, it's not good.
But the bump is it? Well, you know what? You know
Bump
the thing.
Sorry.
You know
not-
what the thing threw me off? Because in A Christmas Story, they're in like it's a suburban house. Like there's a block of houses. There's a row of houses and small little.
Yeah.
There's no like giant yard. So seeing this, I was just like, this isn't that at all. This is like they just stole that movie's thunder.
Did the movie have that house, or is it the same house as A Christmas Story?
I
supposed
could
to be the
I
same.
could just be remembering.
You know what?
I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I could.
Well,
just
Cory
remember.
just saw it.
And the movie starts off with footage from a Christmas of the house, the exterior.
Okay.
They
But
don't
then-
say they moved.
But then do they ever show them like outside the house, or is it just establishing shots and then they're in a
They're-
house? There's
they're-
probably a set.
It also doesn't even have like and it's Bob Clark directing again too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't
Jeez.
have like, you know how in Christmas Story has like kind of like a warm glow to it because the last soft focus photography.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have that same. It
Well,
doesn't
that's
have
the
the same feel.
charm.
It was much more Ralphie's an asshole. Like it was very it reminds me of like the Saw movies, like Saw.
What?
Follow me on this. Bear with me. Hold on.
I had a better analogy, but you go
Where's he
Listen.
going
first.
with this?
Saw 2 was not supposed to be a Saw movie. It was a
Oh.
completely different movie.
Right.
A completely different horror movie that some executive was like, this sounds really similar to that other movie that just came out. What if we just bought the rights and made it a sequel?
They did that for all the Die Hard movies. Those
Yeah.
were all pre-existing scripts that they turned into Die Hard.
Yeah, so it feels like this was an entirely different project that was also loosely based on a Gene Shepard property, and then they're like, well,
Or close
let's
enough.
tie the two together.
And that's why I was going to say it sounds like there were too many executives trying to pitch a title, an idea.
Now he's
Yeah,
right.
also,
tagline.
what was that font?
Yeah.
That like live, laugh, love in the Caribbean font. And the-
He's right though. There are a bunch of subplots like vying for attention during the movie.
I was going to say too, the analogy I had was there was the sequel that the author of Forrest Gump made to Forrest Gump, and it gets bananas.
Gump and
But
Company.
they have stayed far away from that for now, and it was probably for the better, but this is probably the same kind of thing. You struck lightning with A Christmas Story. Why not capitalize on it? But you're never going to really recapture that magic.
They were developing
You know what it is?
that Forrest Gump sequel
Mm-hmm.
until 9/11 happened. I heard.
It could still happen. I mean,
Because
Beetlejuice
9/11 put an end to it.
Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian never happened, but they still made a sequel.
You know what this movie is an example of? Coca-Cola. When they come out with like the new recipe and it's garbage, and they go back to the old one, it's Coke.
So this is new Coke.
Yeah, this is new Coke. It's like no, we don't want this. We'll just take the Christmas Story. Thank you. This is classic.
Yes.
And
It
then
made it classic.
They incidentally did make 2 other sequels to A Christmas Story anyway.
They sure did.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
really?
Yeah,
How?
Yeah,
well, there was
Ralphie
hang
came
on.
back.
Well, no. There was A Christmas Story 2, which was a straight to DVD one with fucking
Daniel Stern. right?
Daniel Stern as the old man.
Mhm.
And like Ralphie's a teenager and he gets a job at Higbee's and he has to dress up in a reindeer thing. It's atrocious.
Imagine.
But then there was the one that came out last year, 2 years ago,
like
where it's
3
an
years ago
actual,
now.
like it's actually Peter Billingsley grown up.
Yeah.
And
As a
it's,
father
a
himself,
true sequel to the movie.
the ones fans accept.
It was just like A Christmas Story Christmas. And it had like everybody from the original cast, except for obviously Darren McGavin because he passed
Ah,
away.
yeah.
And
Julie
Julie Haggerty was playing the mom because Melinda Dillon was in health decline at that point. I
Yeah,
think
she
only
also passed. She
she
also passed
like
away
2
last
months
year.
after the movie came out. I think she
Right.
passed away like only a month or 2 after the movie came out.
Yeah.
But it was good. That one was very heartfelt. It was
I
good
do
to
kind of want to see that one if you want to watch it this Christmas.
Let's do it.
They're just never gonna.
You will
recap
have it, I
this
assume,
one.
I think I do.
right next to Sunshine.
I got the Criterion edition, the box set.
So, oh my God, could you imagine if they did a Criterion of A Christmas Story?
Yeah,
It's
it's a
only a
great
matter
movie.
of time.
Honestly, they need money someday. So, is there a way we could do 6 Degrees from A Christmas Story to Kevin Bacon? That's a
Ooh.
fun, quick game. I can cut
Ooh.
out.
Is it
If-
quick? Because I'm
Well,
Yeah,
terrible
no,
at that.
I won't be
The
able to.
original Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter Billingsley is in couples retreat
Okay.
with Vince Vaughn.
Yep.
Vince Vaughn was in The Lost World, which had a cameo from Joseph Mazzello,
Sure.
who was in River Wild.
Wow. There you go.
I
With
did
Kevin
not lie, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
Hold up. Peter Billingsley
Mhm.
was in
I love how
Iron
it's all
Man.
Peter
Was in Iron Man with Jeff Bridges, who was in R.I.P.D. with
Oh
Bacon.
wow.
Good job.
Why,
Wait,
why would you?
trying to think of a Melinda Dillon movie.
Oh, why don't you do Close Encounters?
Yeah, okay. Close Encounters to
Dick Dreyfus.
yeah, is he ever in a movie with Meryl Streep?
Why do I feel like he was in a movie with Meryl Streep?
I wish John C. Reilly was in
Oh,
W.
he's not in Postcards from the Edge, is he? Wait, is Kevin Bacon in that?
Ah, well, we could do this all day. My
Yeah, I was-
point is, Kevin Bacon is connected to every single person. Do any of you have like a 2 degrees? What's your Bacon number?
Oh boy.
My Bacon.
I think it's
I
actually
could eat
it's
like
gotten,
6.
it's gotten lower. I don't I would need to
Well, a friend of
math it
mine
out.
from
I think it's less
Piscataway
than
High
6
School
at
has
this
been
point.
in his house.
It should be relatively close because he grew up in Philly, right?
Yeah.
So not far from me.
My point is, that's who we're going to do for Picks of the Month. Because even though our first episode included Kevin Bacon, Tremors, we never covered him because back then our idea for Picks of the Month were, what are you watching right now? And eventually we were like, okay, I'm watching the July 2020 episode in September 2024. Who cares that I watched I, Tonya and The King of Staten Island? Not that big of a deal, right?
That we picked?
That's what Jeff and Cory picked respectively, because
I
I
didn't
glanced in on the video last night. I didn't stay to see what Jimmy and I picked, but we were just talking about like what we were watching that month. So it made sense at the time. But as we developed this hidden gem idea, we started picking like a person from the movie. Okay, we're never going to cover Kevin Bacon again or Meryl Streep. You know, like we picked for that. So this month we all discussed which of the 5 main actors we could cover, and we settled on Kevin.
I have mine.
He has an extensive filmography. There's a reason it's 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
I don't think anybody's
Um,
gonna pick it either. Barry Levinson's Diner.
Good choice. That's what started his fame, honestly.
I love that movie. I think the first thing he was in was Animal House, right?
Yeah, he's in Animal House and Friday the 13th right off the bat,
Yes.
but he wasn't making it big.
He wasn't
He-
like a major character in either one
He
of them.
tried to do some other work outside of the film industry, and then he got a chance with Diner. That's really what got him, because you can see he has a bit of a gap between 80 and 82. And then he really makes it after Diner and then Footloose.
Oh, Frost Nixon.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, that makes sense for you.
It's a real good one.
Not just because they directed it, but because he was really good in that movie.
I have a good choice if you're not ready, Jimmy.
Eh,
Runner up, Hollow Man.
yeah, it's probably gonna be Tremors, honestly.
All
That's
right.
okay.
Hey, that's
No, because like otherwise I'd probably go with like X-Men.
I forgot he
Oh.
was in Flatliners.
So I have one that we're not probably going to cover next year, but is one of my favorite animated films. There's one that I am fond of that we could have covered next year, but I'm going to save you from the maudlin exercise. It started my family's journey going to the theater every Christmas because I'd wanted to see this movie and I got them to go see it in theaters. It's Balto, which I think at this point is pretty underrated because it, like Land Before Time and some of the other off Disney animated films, got a ton of sequels that no one ever saw that went straight to DVD. But I actually think that this is pretty top-notch voice acting. Bob Hoskins, I think, was in it.
Yeah.
And Phil Collins is a voice in the movie. He's never done that anywhere else. But
well, Jim Cummings is in it.
it's basically the story of Balto, this snow dog who helped rescue, I believe it's Nome, Alaska, that they got medicine to. There was a diphtheria outbreak and they couldn't get through the snow. So this one pack was able to get through. And they obviously sensationalized it in this animated film where like the dogs are the ones that get the medicine to the town without any human drivers. But either way, the real story was then drummed up again in the 90s because this movie came out. And there's a statue of Balto in Central Park that's very close to the
Really?
yeah, very close to the Central Park Zoo. And I am a big fan of that. I know you and I have passed it, Jimmy, but I don't think we realized we were that close. And,
Yeah, nobody's ever pointed it out to me.
yeah,
So.
I found it recently, and it's definitely around where we were taking pictures for my photography class at DeSales. It's very small, it's easy to miss, but if you're ever in Central Park, there is a Balto statue. And it was definitely one of my favorite movies as a kid. So I think it's a good pick to bring up for people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd pick like Apollo 13 maybe, or he's underrated in A Few Good Men because you
Yeah.
obviously have the Jack Nicholson scene and Tom
Underrated.
Cruise is on fire for that. But
He's underrated Mystic River.
yeah, he should have won his Oscar for that for supporting actor. Or The Woodsman.
Woodsman's.
Woodsman's incredible. He's always knocking it out of the park.
He's
Fine.
yeah. There's a
Square
reason
back
he's got
road.
so many movies. What was the one he worked on at our job that one time?
Oh yeah, he's been to Double Down. That's our degree of
That's
Kevin
the
Bacon.
degree. Well, I wasn't involved
Yeah.
at that point. I wasn't.
That's true. You weren't working there.
Full-time.
I met
Oh,
David Kep at
Mm.
Double Down when I worked there, and he was working on that film that he did with Kevin Bacon.
I think you should leave. No, that's not it.
No, that's
you
it.
should. You should have. No, it's you should have left.
You should have
Literally-
left.
I
you
like
should-
that movie.
But they were filming upstate a little bit in New York, and they had their production offices in our building. So we had rental space for people to do that. Halle Berry came through to do her directorial debut, that MMA movie that she did. And right after that, Kevin Bacon and David Kep came in. From the people that worked there, they always said Kevin Bacon would pop in on the weekends so that he wouldn't like be interrupting regular filming in our studio. None of us really saw him, but Donnie, of course, was the one
He's
that got
just
to
a
see
rumor,
him.
of course.
Yeah.
He was just a myth around town.
Yeah.
A legend, a rumor.
I was this close to the 0 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Someday we will solve that puzzle.
Yeah, I've never really. I mean, I do think about it every time I start working on another project. I'm like, I wonder how this affects my bacon number. But
Yeah. I don't know how to describe this film. I know Jeff has seen it for our October film, but the next thing we're covering is The Road to Wellville, which I understand is a biopic about the creation of Kellogg's cereal. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay, cool.
it's
In a
bad.
way.
It is bad.
Didn't we see a documentary on the creation of Pop Tarts?
Yes, we did.
Science
This would be
has nothing to
perfect.
do with this one.
Yeah.
This is basically like
This is not a parody.
no.
It's
Well,
about Dr. Kellogg.
Dr. Kellogg.
Because not many people know about why
Cornflakes exist.
cornflakes
gonna
exist,
go
but they were
into it.
used for medicinally.
Yes. I know this
gonna
because I
be-
watched the what's that drunken history?
Yes,
I basically watched the drunk history episode of Road to Wellville.
it's gonna be a history lesson, part of your balanced breakfast.
It's definitely not the most famous film that came out in 1994. I'll say that.
No.
Well, that's why it's a hidden gem.
Yeah. So
That's
get
the
ready.
name of the podcast.
We're gonna be driving down the road to Wellville. See you next month. Oh, remember to rate, review, subscribe. I know it's well into this, but if for some reason this was the one you chose to start our series with, welcome. And remember to rate, review, subscribe. I'm driving, not milking. Driving.
It's only going back.
Oh yeah, we're rowing. I'm driving into next week. You guys are rowing.
He's like, I know what how the sausage
What
is
hell
made.
escape
this
It's
is.
terrible.